ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम। ओम गुंगुरुभ्यो नमः। ओम गं गणपतये नमः। ओम ऐं सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे। ओम यस्यात्मभूतस्य गुरुप्रसादात् अहं विमुक्तोऽस्मि संसारबन्धात् सर्वोपदेष्टुः शिवानन्दमूर्तेः मृगाङ्घ्रियुग्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं दयासिन्धुं दीनबन्धुं शास्त्रार्थबोधनपटुं मस्करीन्द्रवरं नौमि श्रीचिदानन्दसद्गुरुम्। ॐ प्राणिनां दुःखहर्तारौ ज्ञानदौ भुवनमुक्तये शिवानन्दचिदानन्दौ आश्रये गुरुसत्तमौ। ओम ओम नमो नारायणाय 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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते रामचंद्राय ओम नमो भगवते शिवानंदाय ओम नमो भगवते चिदानंदाय ओम नमो भगवते शिवानंदाय ओम नमो भगवते चिदानंदाय। So I have been sharing with you on these scriptures, especially the Vedas. And then, because the Vedas being very tough scriptures, the learning process being also very tough, the ancients thought that the key points which have to be remembered have to be brought out in small books. Like the other day I told you, Income Tax Act, who will understand that such a big book? So some guidelines, this is your income limit, for this income limit this is the tax, something minimum only we need for our day-to-day life. So they brought out small books, the guidelines, the tax consultant. Likewise, they brought out small books which we have to just remember, that is all. The traffic rules we remember. So they have made small books which we call it as the Smritis. Similarly, they thought then that is also very difficult. So the traffic rules are there. We know we should drive on the left, and then these are the signals. This line is there which we can cross, we cannot cross. We cannot go beyond this limit. The red signals you have to stop. All these things we remember. Likewise, they made all these things. They are called the smritis. And then they thought, this is also dry. Why not we make it so much, little more easier, so that they will be able to remember, it will go into their mind. Then they thought that we will present it in the form of stories. So that is how the epics came into existence. The epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, they don't come under Puranas. They come under the category Itihasa. Itihasa means it happened like this. Whether it is history or not, that is unimportant. Maybe little history may be there, little story, little deviations may be there. Something is presented. You present it very artistically. So, likewise, it can be artistically presented. It can be a little history, need not be history at all. And then there are Puranas, the 18 Puranas. The Vyasa wrote the 18 Puranas. If you look into those things, the Puranas, whatever be the Purana, whether it is Matsya Purana, Gurma Purana, Varaha Purana, Bhagavata Purana. Bhagavad is more known, other things are not known. Or the Mahabharata. The story is, there was a war. In the Puranas, there is a war between the Asuras and the Devatas. And Bhagavan takes an avatar and kills them. Invariably, all Puranas are like that. In the Mahabharata also, there is a war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Do you know who are these Pandavas and Kauravas? They are cousins, they are brothers, children of the same grandfather. It is a family. So the war is between the brothers in the family, the cousins in the family. Okay? You know this, I think. Anybody doesn't know about this? So it is, so in every family there is this war. 50 years ago, if you go to court, most of the cases will be land cases. Now other cases are there, income tax cases, other things. Excepting the criminal cases, all lawsuits, civil suits are on properties, property disputes. Generally, the property dispute is between brothers. Most of the war, you are not very friendly with your brother. Somehow or other you are. May not be too much inimical, but you are at loggerhead with your brother. So every family, there is this problem. So what is the importance of this story? Why this story? It is a family feud. So why this importance? You take the example of the Asuras and Devatas. The Asuras and the Devatas are the children of the same father. Kashyapa is the father. Kashyapa's children are the Asuras. Kashyapa's children are the Devatas. The Asura's mother is Diti and the Devata's mother is Aditi. You know this, I think. Any of you know this? So it is always the war between brothers. What interest we have? Why so many Puranas? 18 Puranas deal with these things only. The Mahabharata deals with this only. Such a long poetry. 1 lakh slokas, 2 lakh lines. So these brothers fought with each other and all of them died. This fellow became victorious. It can write it in one para. Such a big book, 1 lakh slokas. In that there is so much philosophy. It is not a story book. The story is the vehicle to carry the message. So the war is always between brothers. The war actually, it is a war that is taking place in every individual. It is the war between the two aspects of your mind. It is a war between the good in you and the bad in you. When a crucial moment comes, whether I should do this or I should do this war, and who will be victorious in this? So it is always a war between the two aspects of your own personality. You are born good. Why do you make wrong things? Why do you do wrong things? Something prompts you to do wrong things. Knowingly you do wrong things. If you do wrong thing unknowingly, nobody will complain against you. Oh, it has happened by mistake. Okay, right. But most of these things we do wrong things knowingly. And what is the motivation to do wrong things? What is that which motivates you to do wrong things? The desire. Very strong desire to achieve something. We want to achieve something here. We want food. We want shelter. We want comforts in life. As long as these are available through normal means, nobody will do wrong thing. You will not steal this glass of water. You can go and have it there. But if there is only one cup of water and all of us are thirsty, what will happen? This alone is there. You will kick me out and take this. So as long as things are available to us and it can be achieved through right means, nobody will do wrong thing unless he is a psychopath. Then if you cannot get it, if you are not eligible to get it, but if you have a desire and that desire is also very strong, then there is a war. Whether I should deprive him of this or I should respect him. I should kick him out or I should accept him as my fellow being and accept his desire also. He also wants it, I also want it. I will grab from him or allow him to have it. This war will go on in everybody's mind at least for a fraction of a second. And if you are not doing wrong things, big crimes, why? You are afraid of law. The law will punish you. Otherwise you will do that. So when there is the desire, very strong desire will make you do wrong things. The Brahmins have a prayer. Daily they have to repeat it 3 times, morning, evening and noon. Once a day. And once in a year they used to do it 1,000 times. I was wondering what is this. Later on when I studied the scriptures I found, every day they used to say, Kamo akarishit, Manyur akarishit, Namo Namaha. Kamo akarishit means my desire made me to do this. My anger made me to do this. Kindly pardon me. When we were children, they were asked to report 1,000 times. You repeat every day. Come on, come on. Yes, finish work, come. Finish it in 10 minutes and come. Then later on I thought about it. The mantra reads like this. Kamo akarishit manyurakarishit. Naham karta kamah karta. I did not do this. My desire made me do this. When someone steals, someone covets somebody's property, something wrong you do, you tell a lie. Why? The desire prompts you to do that. Is it right? Otherwise you tell me, I will clarify your doubts. Kamo akarishit. My desire prompted me to do all these things. Then the desire's brother is, if the kama is not fulfilled, kama does not mean passion. Kama means asha, desire. Passion will also come under that. And if kama is not fulfilled, then anger comes. Then mandyurakarishit. My desire made me to do this. In a fit of anger I do it, please excuse me. Sometimes people kill, murder a person, stab a person with a knife or shoot. And then they are afraid. They go to the police station and say, in the fit of anger I did this. So when the case is examined, there was only one shot. So the law takes a lenient view. In a fit of anger he did it. The punishment is less. If there are 10 stabbing, then there is an intention behind it. So once you stab him and blood comes, the fellow is afraid. What I did? All the anger subsides. Sense dawn on him. Sometimes he will lift the fellow and do dressing. Sometimes in the fear he will run away and go to the police station. I did like this. In a fit of anger I did it. So all these wrong things are done by very strong desire. Atyulkata trishna. Very strong desire. At that time the sense will not work. So the war is always between the good and the bad, the dharma and the adharma. They are children of the same parents. Dharma and adharma are not two separate entities, one from the west and the other from the east. It is not that way. It is in the west and the east, it is in the north and the south. So the stories, whatever be the stories, ultimately they speak about if you do wrong things, you cannot be happy. After doing wrong things, you will be unhappy only. If I pick up quarrel with you, even if I become victorious, then my mind is agitated. I am not happy. You pick up quarrel with your wife and go to office. What do you do there? You will not be able to concentrate on your work. I should not have done that. Something will be pricking you. So the stories bring to you a powerful message, a very powerful message that in your own interest you have to lead a life of righteous living. A righteous living, a life of purity and goodness is needed in your own interest. You know the story of Mahabharata. Vyasa wrote 1,00,000 slokas, but the message is brought in one sloka. There he says that Duryodhana was such a powerful person, a mighty warrior, and he had a very large, mighty army, 11 battalions. Of course, Arjuna was also a great warrior, and they were also great warriors. But they had less number of people in their army, 7. And the marshals, the generals in the army of Duryodhana are very capable people, invincible like Bhishma, Drona, Karna. Individually they can handle all these people. Such a mighty army, a very mighty warrior, wonderful and great generals. In spite of that, Duryodhana was defeated. Don't say that Krishna was that side, this side. Krishna was an ordinary man. He did not take weapons. So this man, finally he was defeated. Not only he was defeated, before he was defeated, all his relatives died. All his brothers died. They all died immediately. Their head was cut off or they were killed. But Duryodhana was not killed. His head was not cut off. You know, the final war was a duel between Bhima and Duryodhana. You know this? In that, Bhima breaks the thigh of Duryodhana. He did not kill him. His thighs were broken and he falls flat on that ground. And it was almost evening. The sun is about to set. So when Duryodhana fell down, the war came to an end because all others have already died. So they leave him as it is and they go to their barracks. Bhima and others went back to their barracks. Duryodhana is lying down with thighs broken, tired, and he wants a cup of water. Nobody is there to help him. He looks everywhere. Nobody is there. Bhagna Uru. Bhagna Uru means this thigh. Bhagna Uru. Thigh is broken. Bhagna Uru Patitaha. Fallen down. Nishparijanaha. Nobody is there to give him a cup of water. He looks everywhere. And then when a person is lying down with flesh open to the sky and bleeding, what will happen? Dogs will come and eat. The vulture will come and have its pick and go. Bhagnavuru patitaha nishparijanaha jivan vrigaihi bhakshitaha. While living, while he is alive, dog comes and wafts its tail and eats this flesh. A mighty king, surrounded by thousands of people to look after. This was his condition. So Vyasa says, if you adapt to wrong means, this will be your situation. So there is a powerful message. If you do wrong things, you cannot be happy. Your end, at the end of the day, you will not be happy. That's the message of the Mahabharata. Identical is the message of Ramayana. Ramayana also, you forget that Ramachandra is God and all these things. Valmiki does not present Sri Ramachandra as God. He was an ordinary man. He was a mighty warrior, no doubt about it. A good person. But he was never represented as God by Valmiki. So he was on exile. He had only his brother and wife with him. And then the story says there's a turning point in the story. His wife was abducted by a mighty devil, Ravana. And he has to fight with him. And his army comprised of monkeys. So the Hanuman and others, the monkeys went and fought the war and Rama became victorious, they say. Monkeys build the bridge. So when they say monkeys build the bridge, you think about it. Monkeys are the most destructive animals in this world. Monkeys cannot do anything constructive. All other animals can be constructive. Monkeys are by nature destructive. Even if a flower is there, it will pluck. And it will not throw like this. We have a mango tree here. As this small mango comes, it will take pluck, bite and throw everything. They are most destructive actually. Sometimes they catch hold of a lizard. Lizard will run away, but sometimes they will catch hold. Once it catch hold of it, it will close its eyes, throw, and then see what is happening. If there is any movement, then again it will take. It will torture it. That is the nature of monkeys. So Valmiki says monkeys constructed the bridge. How is it possible? Against their very instinct. And later on when Ravana was killed, Mandodari, his wife, comes and there is a lamentation by Mandodari. Then she looks at his husband, Ravana, lying dead. Then she says, "Is it true? Am I dreaming? Is it true that I see you lying dead here? How can that puny Ramachandra kill you? It is something impossible. I cannot believe my eyes. I know your military preparedness, your war strategies, your intelligence, your capacity to down your enemies. I know all these things. How come that puny fellow killed you?" And then she says, "Perhaps the wrong things you did has caused your downfall. The tears of that lady might have brought you this." So Ravana, in spite of his military preparedness and strategies and other things, his strength, he was killed because he adapted to wrong means. And on the contrary, Rama was victorious in spite of this destructive army with monkeys as his army generals. He could come victorious because the dharma was on his side, the righteousness was on his side. So this message of a right living is carried right from the Vedas. Of course, the other philosophical parts are there, but the basic thing is a righteous living, a dharmic life. That is essential not for the society, for your own sake. Your mind cannot accept wrong things. Sometimes it will prompt you to do wrong things, but having done that, it will keep on repenting. So try to avoid it. So that message which comes right from the Vedas to the Smritis, to the Puranas, are carried in the literature also. Later on, you see any literature, whether it is Sanskrit literature or any Indian language literature, Bengali or Marathi or Tamil or Malayalam, or whether it is French or German, the French authors, the great authors of the French literature, the English literature, the Shakespeare, they have also brought down these ideas, these core ideas in all their literature. You know the story of Les Miserables, Les Miserables. One of the famous drama of Shakespeare, which I very often quote, is the Macbeth. The Macbeth is a story, it's a drama by Shakespeare. So many of you may be knowing, some of you may not be knowing. I bring it in short. Macbeth was a great warrior, but he was not the king. Somehow a thought came into his mind and to the mind of his wife, that Macbeth will be the next king. The king of that country was an ordinary person. So when he dies, Macbeth will become the king. The lady thought, why should we wait for the king to die? Why not we make him die now? So she prompts when the king was sleeping, the lady prompts Macbeth to kill him. No one will see that you kill him, you will become the king. I will become the lady. Then Macbeth was a great warrior. He has killed so many in the war. But in treachery he has not done it. He was worried. His hands were trembling. She says to him, the sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. Kill him. But somehow under pressure, Macbeth stabbed him and blood was coming out. He was trembling, he cannot do anything more. Then she says, you take the blood and sprinkle on his head so that people will think that he has killed him. You can escape and you will become the king. No, I cannot touch it. All right, I will do it. She takes the blood and sprinkles on the head of the king, so that he fled away. The king died, Macbeth becomes the king. The lady Macbeth became the queen. After some time, she developed some psychological problem. She was smelling blood in her hand. She was keep on washing her hand. And then Shakespeare says, to keep away that blood smell, she puts on all perfumes in the world. Shakespeare says, all the perfumes of Arabia cannot sweeten this little hand. And she collapsed out of this fear and conscious prick. So the message Shakespeare brings out is identical to the message of the Mahabharata, but he brings it in his own way. So all the literature, right from the Veda to the literature, there is a powerful message that in your own interest, you have to lead a life of purity, a life of service, a life of truthfulness. Hari Om Tat Sat.